Chamber. Obviously, it's fairly warm in here, so we're going to try and get through business as efficiently as we can this afternoon. So I'll just start with the summons. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of the Health and Community Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Derry Road, Strabane, on Thursday, the 10th of July 2020 at 4 p.m. So there is a bit of a gale here, so we'll just try and maybe switch this off for a second. Just check that everybody online can hear us. So Alderman McMorris. Online. Alderman Montgomery.
Online.
Alderman Wilkinson.
Okay.
Councillor Lillian Barr. Councillor Raymond Barr. Councillor Paul Boggs.
Shaw, Karen.
Councillor Clark.
And Shaw.
Councillor Deaney has sent apologies. Councillor Devine.
And Shaw.
Councillor Duffy.
Online.
Councillor Hutton.
And Shaw.
Councillor McDade. Councillor O'Farrell. Yeah. And Councillor Cheney. Thank you, members.
I'll just read the broadcasting statement. I would like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of those images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council's privacy notice may be found on the Council's website. We were to have a deputation, but the person hasn't arrived, so we're just going to proceed on with the meeting because, as Karen has said, it is so hot in here and we want to try and get through the meeting as efficiently as we can. So declarations of members' interest, if anyone wants to declare now or wait until we get through. Councillor McDade. Thank you, Chair. Just item 13 as a member of one of the clubs that's getting funding. Thank you. Councillor Clark, did you put your hand up? Oh, sorry, Paul.
Say nothing. Item 13 as well, member of the District Sports Committee and also a member of a sports club that's receiving funding.
Thank you. So we'll go straight into Chair's business.
Chair, member of the sports committee. So.
Thank you, Councillor Barr.
Chair, I think at the last AGM I was put on the sports committee too. I'm not sure, but just in case.
Right. Alderman Hussey. Right. Oh, duly noted. Thank you. So we'll move on to chairperson's business. There are a few items here on chairperson's business today, but there's one which is very pressing and urgent. So I'm going to allow Councillor Boggs to come in first. So Paul, that's you.
Kermogut, Chair, and it is an urgent issue, and it's one that I really wish we didn't have to talk about today. But as people will have seen, perhaps on social media or media reports, there was a racist attack, a hate crime in Strabane last night where a family home was attacked in the Ballycoman area with racist graffiti, which has left a family in fear. They feel intimidated and they feel that they are not safe in the comfort of their own home. And I think people, those behind such attacks, and they're not isolated to Strabane, but we maybe foolishly seen ourselves that we had escaped from some of the hate fueled attacks that have been seen across the city and district and indeed across Ireland in recent months and perhaps in the recent year. And I'm foolishly thinking that we had missed it. There is huge swathes of anger and emotion right across Strabane today. And those people that are perpetrating these attacks clearly don't see that when you attack a person's home, behind the bricks of that person's home is a family. And there is a mother and 2 young daughters today that are fearful of living within our council area, and particularly within Strabane town. And there's a community left very, very angry, because that is not the type of community that Strabane is. It's not the type of community that the city and district is, but it's particularly not the community that the Ballycoman is here in the town. I want to put on record my thanks particularly to Camille Rayo from the Strabane Ethnic Community Association, who has done everything this morning and engaged with anybody who is willing to support the family to try and give them the support that they need at this time. And I'm aware that is happening. But I think, given the meeting that we had last year in this council and the comments that have been made, particularly around the former mayor of this council in relation to racist attacks and comments and the vile hatred that has been directed towards some people, I think, again, we need to say that wherever racism raises its head, whether it's in this council area or anywhere else, we need to call it out, we need to stamp it out, and we need to get people onto the page that the rest of us are on, that it is not acceptable and that it will absolutely not be tolerated. So the Ballycoman is a proud and welcoming community. It's an inclusive community. And the actions of this morning or late last night are not representative of that community. And I want to say very loud and clearly today from this chamber, and I know that I will have the support of everybody else in this chamber, that it will not be accepted. And Strabane says that these actions are not in our name. They're not welcome. They need to stop, and we can't see it repeated, because it will not be tolerated by the community in Strabane or elsewhere across the city and district. And I want to thank you, Chair, for allowing me in first, given the pressing need of the issue. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Paul. And I just know from talking to you previously, it's been a very emotional morning for yourselves, the community, the whole community of Strabane, and yourselves as elected reps trying to navigate through the disgusting behaviour that has been seen today in the Ballycoman estate. And I sent my solidarity to the family as well as the whole community of Strabane and Ballycoman as well. So first indicated speaker is Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair. And I'd just like to concur with everything Councillor Boggs has just said. There's no place in society for this behaviour, let alone Strabane. Needless to say, there's widespread anger in Strabane because of this needless graffiti. And I would ask the Strabane community to rally around this family and show them the moral support and the practical support that they'll need at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barr. Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair, for bringing me in, and thank you to Councillor Boggs for raising this issue. I wasn't aware of it before you spoke of it, and I'm glad now that you have raised it here. In your part and sentiment, you said, and I may be paraphrasing, so forgive me, that Strabane needs to send a message that racism isn't welcome. This council area needs to send a message, not just the people of Strabane or the people of the Ballycoman. From Colmore to Castledare, we need to send out that message that racism is not welcome and will not be tolerated in this council area. On behalf of the SDLP, I send my thoughts and solidarity to the family and to the people of the Ballycoman and wider Strabane area. We know, unfortunately, the impact that racial abuse can have on an individual and on a family. Many of us in this chamber know the impact that your family home being attacked can have on your entire family. It's not welcome. It is not, should not be tolerated in 2025. These people need stood up to it. It needs to be called out, and we need to send a strong message from this chamber on behalf of everybody. There's not many times in this chamber that we all agree on everything, but I think on this we can agree that racism should have no place in our society today or ever. I've been to the Ballycoman many times. I'm not from Strabane, but I was welcomed with open arms, and I was always treated with respect, even when we were going on to discuss difficult issues such as the flooding down at the lower half. People should be allowed to live there freely, and it's not up to other people to determine who lives in what community or who should be allowed to live in what community. People should be allowed to live freely, and then that's the type of society That's the type of Ireland that I want to live in, and other people need to get on the same page as the rest of us, because their racist abuse will not be tolerated in this society. And again, I send the SDLP's full support to the family, to the community in the Ballycoman and wider Strabane, and to the elected representatives who are dealing with this on the ground, because it's not nice for them either. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Members, I'm going to pause Chair's business because our guest has arrived, Tracy, and you are very, very welcome, Tracy. Oh, don't worry about it. You're grand. These things happen. And you will see it's very hot down here. So if you need any water or assistance, just let us know. So, Tracy is a local volunteer and coordinator from the Hygiene Bank, and she's going to tell us a wee bit about the organisation today and the work that they are doing. So, Tracy, you have 10 minutes for your presentation, and then we'll open the floor then to some questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I was late. I got waylaid there and got a bit lost. Is that the wrong button? Oh, so yeah, as I say, my name's Tracy. I am a blow-in. I live in Derry. I am I've been here for 19 years, so I'm not a Derry girl, but you know, I'm here 19 years, have 3 children. A few years ago was looking to do something surrounding the period poverty. And I really wanted to do something about it. And I've done a bit of research and I came upon the Hygiene Bank. The Hygiene Bank is a charity that we've got 17 places in Northern Ireland, and we're coordinators all of our own local area. So we're a registered charity. We're all over the UK. We're currently in Boots at the moment. There's a big yellow box in Boots. That is where our donations go. We've also been in AXA. Every month they support a different charity, and what they've done is they done a full month, and that was fantastic, because people seem to think that hygiene poverty is, you know, it's period poverty, and it's, you know, it's surrounded just around maybe families and around women, when in fact I really want to sort of burst that open. It's, you know, the suicide rate in Derry and Strabane is really, really bad, and there's a lot of single males as well. So I've been in touch with local charities to get them to come on board as what's called community partners. It means then you sign up as a community partner if you're a charity, and then what you can do then is you can contact your coordinator within your area and then tell them what it is that you require in order to support the families within your area. It means then you can get hygiene products, but as I say, people kind of get stuck in hygiene being cleaning for yourself and your own body, when in fact it's doing the washing, it's doing the dishes, it's, you know, it's a lot more than that. So when I was looking and I first started looking into supporting and giving something back, it was very much a period poverty thing. I'm a woman, that's where I sort of came from. But I have 3 boys, and 2 of my boys then turned round and said to me, they were in St Joe's in Derry, and they went, "Mum, can we get some hygiene products up there?" Because some of the boys, they went, you know, they need roll-on, you know. And as soon as I came into the Hygiene Bank, I realised that it's not just one segment, it's not just one person, or it's not just families, it's not just teenagers, it's not single men, it's much more broad scale, and there is very much a need. And I would kind of like, you know, one of our community partners is the Foyle Food Bank, and we support them and we give them nappies, we give them wipes. Another one then is, and I work very closely, and a lot of my donations do go to Sure Starts in Derry. We now do have we have a coordinator now for Strabane as well. So they're only just started in the last couple of weeks. So it means then we're going across both parts of the council. But I suppose coming in, I've noticed then that it's so much more than, it's not just families. It's not, you know, we need to hit everybody. And I know that there's a need there, and I can talk the hind legs off a donkey, but I'm only Tracy with this badge. I need to be hitting on doors where maybe someone with a bit more stature is able to actually get through. We have Boots. which is fantastic. We did have AXA. I'm working on Tesco's at the moment for donation stations. It means then we can avail of more donations and then get them out. For myself, I want to be in all the schools. I'm speaking to the men's charities. We don't really work with Women's Aid, but the reason we don't work with Women's Aid is when we work with Foyle Food Bank, they then filter it through to Women's Aid. So I know that's that's already satisfied there. I think that realistic, I want to make more of an impact, but I'm only one person, and I really want people to kind of get behind it, because I feel like we're in a place, we're a proper charity, you know, and we have the ability. I just need to push it that bit further, and I feel that, you know, I just need a bit of weight behind me. Because as I say, I can talk to people. I have a meeting with Foyle Food Bank here next Thursday, so we're going to start getting something more tangible between us. I think before the summer holidays are over, I want to be able to have got to all the male charities, because I really do feel like it's very important. It's not just families, it's not just single mums, it's not people that just work, it's everybody. Everybody needs the support at the minute, you know. I think because too much information here, but when I was younger, I was in care, and my support worker was male. I didn't want to ask him anything, and then my head teacher, or you know, the year head, he was male. So you know, that's sort of where this all stemmed from. But listening to stories from my kids, and listening, you know, them saying, oh, boys need it, and then being aware of the stats in dairy where men need support, it needs to be pushed out, and it needs to go further than we are at the moment. And I am contacting local businesses, and like they're not even answering the emails. So I want to get that push. I had spoke with the mayor in Derry, and he said he's going to obviously have this, but he was saying then he was going to try and get some of the donation boxes put within the council buildings, which would be great. So, you know, that would, I just think it would be really beneficial if we can support the people, because the one thing is we might be 17 different hubs, but we only look after our own coordinated area. So anything that comes into Derry goes to Derry. Anything that goes to Strabane looks after Strabane. It's not going anywhere else. It's very much on the ground, and it's very much supporting the people that are within our local community. I am, as I say, working on the men's side of it, but Sure Start is really good, because I know I had 2 kids under 2, and I really needed help at that stage, and that there is really, really good. AXA was fantastic, because as I say, it wasn't just body hygiene products, it was also the cleaning products. So, you know, whereas in Boots, all you're getting is the hygiene products, you're not getting the cleaning products. So being able to find businesses that would be happy to give us that 1 month out of the 12 and have a donation area would be great. Yeah, sorry, I'm probably a waffler. But yeah, I'm very passionate about it. I really, really want to make a difference within Derry. I know we're in Derry Strabane, but we have a Strabane coordinator, but she's only just started, so she wasn't fit for coming today. But her details will be given over, so you guys have that. But yeah, nobody comes into this volunteer position and doesn't have a bit of fire and a bit of passion behind them. So I really do want to make a difference in the area that I live.
Thank you very much, Tracy. You stuck to your time anyway, not like some other deputations. So what happens now, we'll open it to the floor, Tracy, and some people might want to comment or have some questions for you. Is that okay? So the first indicated speaker is Councillor Duffy. Sandra online.
Thank you, Chair. And Tracy, great to see you in the chamber today. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. But just to say, I really enjoyed meeting you a number of years back, and your passion and drive for this is absolutely amazing. You know, when you were talking to me, we were on the same wavelength around this stuff. we brought this motion to council in 2018 around particularly period poverty, and we were the first council then across the island to have a period poverty policy where we had free products in all our toilets right across the council area, which was fantastic to see. But from talking to you, I understand the wider issue, and it has definitely become something that is more prevalent as the years go by, and we're seeing it more and more. I think that your meeting with the mayor was very productive in terms of trying to get the donation stations into some of our council buildings, and I would be quite keen to see those as well in some of our community centres. I know when we passed the motion around period poverty, a lot of the community centres stepped up before they needed to in having donation stations for people to donate and making sure that there was free period products in the toilets before they were even supplied by the council as part of the policy. So I know that as a local grassroots level, people will definitely want to step up. I know from the period poverty campaign as well that a lot of our local businesses were quite keen to get involved, and a lot of the big businesses have an element as well where they do like social justice events or social justice weeks, and the staff within those organisations might go out and do charity work, or they might do collections and stuff. So it might be worth those conversations taking place there. Probably one of the questions that I have is around how we become like community partners, and I'll speak with a different hat on me. I work within the homeless sector as well, and we do work really closely with Foyle Food Bank on a daily basis around different issues. But one of the things that consistently comes up with us is service users, men and women, who really need those hygiene products. And sometimes the staff who work within my organisation will go and they're purchasing those things themselves and giving them out to people because there's a definite need. How would we go about becoming a community partner with yourself, Tracy? Is probably a question that I have. But to see anything that we can do as a council, I would definitely be up for working along with you because I know your passion for it. I know your drive around this issue. So would love to be more involved in what you do. And I see the donation station in Boots. I would love to see it in Asda, in Tesco's, in Sainsbury's, and other places right across where we can get more donations in, because it's a really worthwhile charity. So Tracy, thank you for coming along today, and I really do hope to help you along the way. So thank you.
Hi.
Sorry, do you want to take the questions as they come, or what do they?
Aye.
Go ahead.
I have ADHD, I'll forget by then. Yeah, so I actually have a link, whereas you can, if you are a charity or obviously council, what we do then is you can then sign up to become what's called a community partner, and that's where the donations go. And then anyone then that is looking to avail of the donations, they then they have a different link, and then they can avail of that, because I actually have Sure Start as a drop-off station and as a donation station, so they can collect things, but they also give them out. So I can supply the link for that in order for people then to become as we call them, community partners. It means you can avail of you can collect things for us, and then we can then donate them out.
Thanks for that, Tracy. The next indicated speaker is Councillor McDade. Catherine, if you want to go.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Tracy, for coming in. We've talked loads in this council around poverty and around food poverty and child poverty, and we actually, 2018 was before I joined, but we haven't really drilled down to kind of hygiene poverty, and it's something that people don't really talk about. There is still a wee bit of shame around that, and whether it's shower gel and deodorant or washing powder for your clothes or whatever it might be. So it's great to kind of raise the profile, I think. And I think it's important because people don't feel as awkward talking about period poverty anymore because it's been around for so long. But it's actually that broader issue, and I think it's really important, and it's so clear that you're passionate and you've picked up on that, and you know, even the experience you have of having young boys in St. Joe's, and it's that kind of personal experience that you bring probably that makes you so good at your job. But I suppose I was just thinking even practically around different things that can be done. And I know in your presentation there was kind of what can you do, and there's fundraisers and become a volunteer and stuff. But I was thinking even around our social media, can we like if you are able to get donation boxes on, are we able to like share it in social media where they are so people are able to they know that Boots or Sure Start or wherever it might be where the locations are. So when they're doing a shop, they can throw them in, because I understand in Boots, if you're buying things, you might buy what's in Boots, but you're not going to buy Fairy Liquid or Surf or whatever you use to wash your clothes. So if we could even kind of do some, are we able to do that? Just share it in social media so we can raise the profile locally as well, maybe. And it's great to hear that Strabane have a coordinator now as well, so that it's not just in Derry, it's right across the council area. But no, thanks so much for coming on such a hot day. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. Next indicated speaker online is Alderman McMorris.
Thanks very much, Chair, for letting me in. Can I just thank Tracy for her presentation? We all know the difficulties that people are having in our communities, and it's great to see that, you know, we're not just talking about period poverty or even, you know, like nappies and baby banks and stuff like that, but it has been widened out right across. So it's men, women, children, families are all going to be able to avail of the help that is out there. And I agree totally with Sandra. Do you know what I mean? This is something that we need to roll out into our community centres. The community centre that I'm involved in at the moment does have a baby bank. Do you know, where young mothers and stuff are coming to avail of products that they're in need, and we see time and time again where it's not just unemployed mummies, it's working mummies and people that are struggling just with everyday things for their food or whatever, whether it be hygiene or not. So this is always welcome to family that really needs it. As a working parent myself, I know when you go into Tesco's or wherever it is you shop, like one of the main things that eats into everybody's disposable income is washing powder. A box of washing powder can be £10 upwards. Do you know what I mean? And for somebody with a low income, that's a lot of their disposable income eaten up with just one product. So I'm really glad to see that, you know, the products is extending out to washing powder and stuff like that, because sometimes it's easier to buy a shower gel at 99 pence, but it's not so easy to get the bigger products at £10 plus. So I'm really just delighted to see that, and I really want, you know, as many community centres and different organisations to take up the donation boxes in this here, and the way you're working at We Sure Start, where they have a donation box, but they still are recipients of donations, you know, for their users. I think it is a great idea because it gives them some kind of, you know, ownership and personal give back, so that they're not just getting all the time, that they're actually able to give back and do that discreetly and confidentially. And I think it's a wonderful thing. So thank you for coming along and doing your presentation. It's really energizing to see the passion that you have for hygiene banks and about getting that hygiene products out there to everybody that needs it. So well done to you and well done to the organisation. And we look forward to seeing how this rolls out across our city and district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nairi. Next indicated speaker is Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Tracy, for coming along today. I'll be very quick. As Catherine's already spoken on it for us. During your presentation, Tracy, you said that you needed someone to give you a bit of oomph to get you out there. And people have already spoken about getting this out into our communities. I think, Chair, it might be a good idea if we were to suggest to the local growth partnerships to invite Tracy along to do a similar deputation, so we could meet people who actually work in community centres and community organisations, see how they can help and how you can help them, and see if we can see some of these donation boxes within community centres, Chair. And I don't know if you need a proposal for that, but I think it's just a very simple introduction for Tracy with the local growth partnerships. It might be another way that people within the community can give Tracy that bit of oomph that she's looking for, to see if we can do something along those lines. But thank you very much for your presentation, and I genuinely wish you well with the work that you're involved in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Joseph, for the presentation. I could clearly hear it through your Welsh accent. Tongue in cheek. Clearly, the expansion beyond the period property thing is to be welcomed, and the fact that there's a recognition that, you know, the fellows can stink as much as anybody else. Put it that way. Let's be blunt about it. And you mentioned your centres in Londonderry and Strabane, and as a rural representative, I'm wondering where the outreach can be to rural. Now, I know how you work. You work with local partners. So do you spread out into the rural from the two urban areas via community partners? That would be the first one. I totally agree with Councillor Turney on the local growth partnerships get out there. Mention has been made of the bigger stores, the Sainsbury's, etc. And I wonder, have you ever considered contacting Henderson's, who are suppliers to, you know, the Spars and the Vivos that do exist out there in the, you know, the smaller settlements, and that could be a way of possibly getting into that section of the community. And I simply just wish you well going forward. And I know that in this chamber, you're pushing an open door for support as you go forward. But thank you very much, Tracy.
With regards to the more rural areas, we do have the 17 areas that are covered, and people that are within that catchment, they can certainly utilise that. I didn't know about Henderson's. That's something that I'll certainly look into. As I say, because it's all volunteers, everybody that comes on board is a wee passionate person that's in that sort of environment. So we're always looking to expand. I mean, they've been trying to get into dairy for a while, and I was like, well, it's a blow-in that's doing it, but we'll get there. So, you know, I'm here, but then since I've taken up this one here, now we've got someone in Strabane, so quite a lot of it's to do with exposure and people actually knowing that it's, you know, we want to be as recognisable as the food banks because we're just as important. You know, I personally, I bought Tesco value ham and scolded the children. They've had more than 2 bits of ham. I'm not there now, but I've been there. I've been in the trenches, and that's why, you know, I feel so like passionate about it. But yeah, as I say, with regards to the rural areas, it's these areas, and if they're within catchment, then they can certainly avail of that. Yeah, and I'll look into Henderson's. Thank you so very much.
Brilliant, Tracy. Thank you so much. Has anybody else any questions? I'll just make a couple of wee comments myself, if you don't mind. It's an absolutely amazing idea, and I think it's something that it should be delivered throughout the community. And I was glad to hear that you actually are delivering that within the schools, because some of the elements of bullying is around children's hygiene, and it is really, really important that there's opportunity there for children even to provide products for their friends in school if they do see the need. And what came into my head as well while you were chatting was Northwest Youth Services. There's a large organisation called Northwest Youth Services, and they would welcome organisations like yourself coming in to talk to the young people about the service, but they also involve the young people in the service. The young people are involved in the food banks. Young people are involved in working with older people in our residential homes. And this would definitely be something that I could see them welcoming under the youth clubs as well. And Brian had talked about the local growth partnerships. And while you were chatting, the area that I work in with my other hat on, we have a monthly community meet and greet where we bring organisations like yourselves who are trying to get out there and create those partnerships with the community sector. We would bring them along. They present to every single staff member within the Triax area where I work. So if you don't mind, I will pass your details on to the coordinator of that community meet and greet. And I think that all the neighbourhood renewal areas have strategy managers, and that might be an idea as well, as Brian has already alluded to, about getting out and having that meet and greet with them. So, and you have shared snippets of your own personal story, which I want to thank you for, because it's not easy as well to talk about that lived experience. But I think you've lots of support here within the chamber, and that oomphed up element that you chatted about. I think that will happen, and you will see more contact from other people looking to hook up. But that link that you chatted about, if we could get that shared with Lorraine, and that can be sent out among us as members as well.
I have they were having a technical issue with my email. They've now sorted that. So what I'll do is I will answer the email, and I will then put in the links, and I'll put in the correct telephone number, because the mail wrote it down wrong. But yeah, I'll make sure that that's written in, and it means then that then is confirmed. And as soon as you've done that, I can then look into what kind of donation boxes we're able to avail of. I know that we have specific ones for boots, but we've been working with boots a brave while. As I say, I'm trying to bump into other places, but I think then when we worked with AXA, they just sort of had like trolleys, and then they done it, you know, and I went there and collected after the month. But I'll go back and speak to project manager and see what that looks like for you guys.
That's great, Tracy. Thank you so much. And you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. But if you want to get out of this sort of sweat box, we're all roasted. But thanks very much for coming in, and I hope you weren't too stressed trying to find your way. You can relax a wee bit now. Thanks a million, Tracy. It was very informative.
Thank you very much for having me. I have a boy who works in Burntfoot, so I'm going to go and drive and collect him. He's over in E&I, so I'll go and grab him now. But thank you so very much for having me, and I apologise for being late. It's been lovely seeing everybody. Thank you so very much. You've been very welcoming.
Okay, members, we will move on now with chairperson's business, and the next indicated speaker is Councillor Devine, and you have two items. Caroline, do you want to do both together? Is that okay?
Thank you, Chair. I would like us to take a moment here today at our meeting just to remember Sarah Montgomery, who was murdered in her home in Donaghadee at the end of last month, and whose funeral has just taken place today. Sarah was the 27th woman to be murdered in the North in less than 5 years, and the 44th since 2017. This is really alarming and distressing, these statistics. But Sarah wasn't just a statistic. She was a mummy to two girls, Amelia and Scarlett, and her unborn baby, Liam Arthur, who was laid to rest with her today. She was a sister, a granddaughter, and a friend. The trauma and the tragedy of her death will be felt forever by her family, her friends, and the wider community in Donaghadee. Many of the women murdered since 2020 were killed in their own homes, somewhere they should have been safe. All but one of those women was killed by a man. Many of those accused or convicted of their murders were known to them. They were husbands, partners, ex-partners, brothers, sons, a friend, and a grandson. We have a huge problem in our society with violence against women and girls, and we need to do everything we can to address it. I welcome the funding that has been provided through Council as part of the Ending Violence Against Women and Girls strategy to deliver campaigns that will start to create a culture of change in attitudes and behaviours so that we can end this scourge in our society. We all must stand together, we must work together, and we must redouble our efforts to bring about change. We must call out misogyny wherever we see it, however subtle. The jokes, the remarks, the social media posts, the comments in the WhatsApp group. Each and every one of us has a part to play in ending gender-based violence. Not just lip service, but real, meaningful actions, so that we have a future where women can lead safe and fulfilling lives, free of the threat of violence and abuse of any kind. And so we never have to stop and reflect on another woman's life that has been taken too soon.
Thanks very much, Caroline Devine. Very emotional to speak about it, and when you put it in the context of who that person actually was and what she meant and the dynamics of any family, it's a huge, huge, huge loss. And in relation to the funding, it is great that council have been able to roll out that funding to community organisations across the district. One of those organisations is the advocacy project within Dove House, and as part of the steering group, we had did a visit last week to the Victim and Witness Support Centre in Bishop Street. We also got a tour of the courtroom and the positioning of witnesses and victims when they are in the courtroom, the positioning of the offenders and their families. And what really stood out at that visit was there is a domestic violence court every second Tuesday in Bishop Street. And on any one day, there's 11 cases. So the funding is great, but we need more. And we need to be always calling out misogyny, as you have rightly stated. So, Caroline, thank you so much for bringing that up today. And I will bring in Councillor McDade before you do your second item, if you don't mind. It's just because I know your chair's business is relating to it as well. So go ahead, Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. And I suppose it was on the same subject about Sarah Montgomery, and I don't think I could even follow Caroline, to be fair, because that was beautiful what you've said, and I think putting it in the context, I was going to say a lot of the same, but probably not quite as eloquently. But you know, putting it in the context of a mommy who was probably so excited to be having her first wee boy. She was only 27, do you know, and she's the 27th person in 5 years. It's not just shocking, it's unacceptable, do you know, and I know that we keep saying that we're working towards ending violence against women and girls, but it doesn't feel like we're actually making any movement on it. It feels like there's always something, and that's really scary what you've just said there now, around 11 cases every week. And it's just, and I know we hear a lot about the people who have died, which is absolutely horrific. But it makes you think about all the people who haven't died, but they're still living through it, and they're living. And like Caroline has said, most of these people are living with the people who are going to kill them or are going to leave them very, very, very unwell in hospital. And I suppose there's two kind of elements that I just wanted to mention. One was was it last month? There was a young girl attacked in Ballymena, and there was riots for a week right across the north because people were coming out to protect our women and girls. And there was a lot of vigils for Sarah Montgomery last week and the week before, and I didn't see any of those individuals who were outraged about protecting women and girls when it was somebody who didn't look like them who did the attack. And to me, we talked about racism at the start of this meeting, and that's pure racist as well. So the man that has killed Sarah Montgomery is as bad a man who is a different colour skin who kills or hurts a woman as well. So I think it's really important to call out that racism. And I think as well, it's important that in the past 2 or 3 weeks, Sarah Montgomery has died. There's also been 2 men that have died as a result of domestic violence in Derry, or not Derry, sorry, in Northern Ireland. There was a man in Newry and a man in Ballymoney who were murdered by their partners. And quite often, and the focus needs to be on ending violence against women and girls, because unfortunately, women are very, very unsafe. We live in the most unsafe island or part of Europe. But there are men out there too who are victims of domestic violence, and in the case in the past 2 weeks, 2 men have died as a result of it. So, and quite often they don't speak out as well. So I think we need to send our love and support to their families as well as Sarah Montgomery's. But yeah, thank you for raising it, Caroline, and thanks for letting me in, Ashley.
Thank you, Catherine. Caroline, do you want to go on with your second item?
Grahamaigat, Chair. It's in relation to the proposed permanent removal of emergency general surgery from the SWA. I suppose, first of all, to say that it's concerning that this announcement has been made, because it's contrary to the previous position of the Trust that it was just a temporary measure, and that emergency general surgery would be reinstated again in the future. I would ask that Council please reiterates the call that was made by my party colleagues for the Western Trust to ensure that the consultation they carry out on this proposal is comprehensive, and that it takes place in all of the areas that are impacted by the decision. I would urge them to hold a consultation in Tyrone, because so far they've only proposed Fermanagh and Derry. It cannot be a remote paper exercise, and the Department of Health and NIAS should also be present at the consultations to answer questions from the public. The experiences of the people who are trying to access health services in the wider catchment area of the SWA must be heard, and their views must be acted on as well. This type of ad hoc service collapse is not transformation, and we will continue to work to ensure that everyone has access to high quality and safe clinical care. It's concerning that the Trust has made this announcement as well prior to reassuring the public that all of the recommendations in the RQIA report have been implemented, or even what progress has been made on those recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Caroline. And the first indicated speaker on that is Alderman Huff.
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair, and thanks to Councillor Devine for bringing this forward. As Councillor Devine knows, both herself and myself, if we want to go to a hospital, our nearest hospital actually is SWA. That's the nearest hospital to where we are. And Tyrone has been completely ignored by the Trust in this consultation. And I think it's an absolute disgrace what they're doing. It's not just the close, the cutting off of that particular service at SWA. That will also have a knock-on effect on Galvin. So it's going to impact on the folk in Londonderry and beyond. It's going to impact on them. I don't know if anybody's aware, but I've been made aware through union contacts that the emergency service in Letterkenny is about to close. That is going to have an impact on Galvin as well. So, the Trust are cutting back on services, and they're just going to be overwhelmed with patients going in to that location at Galvin, rather than utilising the facilities that they have. It's a brand new hospital at Enniskillen. I mean, some of us went through the process when the Tyrone County was closed. And this is exactly the same scenario. It's death by 1,000 cuts that's been impacted on SWA. And it's not acceptable. It's not acceptable that the Trust will not listen to the voice of the people who are impacted. And I totally support Caroline in her efforts to have a consultation process within County Tyrone. And I would suggest not just somewhere in Tyrone. I believe there should actually be two. One in the Oma part of Fermanagh and one in the Strabane part, the lower Strabane part of our council area, because they're all impacted. And people are going to suffer with a withdrawal of services, and everyone's going to suffer across the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. And online, Nairi, you were looking to come in there?
Thanks, Aisling, for letting me in. It was actually I indicated on the last chairperson's business that Caroline had brought up. So whilst I agree with everything that's been said in regarding this chairperson's business, I just wanted to put on record, the sympathies to go out to Sarah's family. I thought that Caroline's address on the matter was very emotional, and she really gave the girl justice. And I just feel so emotional about that there, and about how violence against women and girls are just so prevalent in Northern Ireland at the moment. It's just shocking, the statistics. But I just wanted to put that in record, you know what I mean? And the sympathies go out to Sarah's family. Thank you.
Thanks, Nairi, and apologies. I didn't see it there.
No,
Thank
you're all
you.
right.
Right, okay, thank you. So the next item is from myself, and I just wanted to...
Sorry, Chair, just to follow up. Is there an agreed action from...
Yeah, a letter. So Karen has that action for a letter to be done in relation to the consultation now. All right, Karen.
Chair, can I just get some clarity? Is it possible for that letter to be sent ahead of full council being ratified, given the pressing nature of the consultation closes not until, is it the 4th of September, I believe, but just so that there's as much time for the Trust to try and plan, is it possible to have that sent before council?
The consultation is on the 18th of October. So there will be time for the correspondence to be tabled formally at the next Health and Community Committee, but certainly in the interim, we're content to forward a letter. Thanks.
My apologies around the date. Thank you.
Sure, if we can come back on that, I mean, the in-person consultations actually next week. Tuesday at Killyhalfon and Thursday at the Waterford, I believe. You know, we need to be in before that. We need to be saying, look, you know, because they'll have their timetable laid out for their in-person consultation. I think something, if it can be arranged, even, you know, if it's via the mayor's office or whatever.
Yeah, I think the first instance will be contact by letter, and then we will talk to them about that in-person consultation and see where we can fit in there to any of those dates. Is that all right, Karen? Are you happy enough with that? Is that okay, Alderman? Sorry, so is that everybody on that item?
Sorry, Chair. I'm struggling to understand. What are we actually asking for in the proposal? Because I have the trust given any rationale as to why they're not holding an in-person consultation in Tyrone? Because to me, that sounds absolute crazy. Given the fact that the majority of people who are going to be impacted by this are people in Tyrone. Alderman Hussey explained rightfully, in my view, that how this is going to impact on Altnagelvin. And it's not to say that people in Altnagelvin are standing at the moment doing nothing. You know, they're already overstretched as it is. My fear around waiting until after full council, you then have the call-in period and all of that. You're nearly into the middle of August before this letter actually goes. And that will be a slight concern of mine. I want to support, we absolutely support the proposal, but we just need a wee bit of clarity on the process going forward.
So there will be a letter from the mayor's office indicating all of these concerns and asking the questions that you've just asked, Brian, about why it wasn't, Tyrone wasn't included in the in-person consultation. I think it's really important that it is an in-person. It's a physical meeting. So that's that will come from the mayor's office, and we just need to await that response. But as long as we have declared an interest as to why this isn't happening, then you don't know, they might have to pause proceedings until they get that sorted, but we won't know till the letter goes, but it will be an urgent letter from the mayor. Is that us now then? So I just wanted to bring up in Chair's business today a recent report. I went to the launch of the Aware the Impact of Menopause on Mental Health, and it was a report compiled by the All Party Mental Health Group led by Padraig Delargy MLA and Aware themselves. So there was a launch last Thursday, I think it was, up in East Belfast, and I attended. So it's just to highlight the report. There is a digital copy which I will share with the committee, and it can be shared with everybody. But I suppose bringing it up here, we could have just shared it via email, but I wanted to bring it up here today because the statistics arising from that report were pretty shocking. Whenever I read the report and whenever they were being delivered at the launch. And as you know, there was a motion brought to council in relation to us working with statutory and community partners around the services that are being provided here across the Northwest for women who are perimenopausal, menopausal and postmenopausal. There hasn't been any progress in relation to that meeting through no fault of council officers, no fault of members. We have been persistently asking for that meeting. So I just wanted to, on the basis of the stats, I'll just read a few out. I don't want to labour it too much because you can all read the report for yourselves. There was 72.8% of women who are significantly or highly impacted by their mental health during menopause. 49.2% of them are moderately impacted, and 23.6% of those women are severely impacted. And without And within that report, all the geographical disparities are all noted, and it's a really, really interesting read. I have a paper copy here, but only have one. The socioeconomic inequalities are within the report too, and it's really shocking. They think that some women who are living in poverty can't access the same services or don't know how to access them. So this meeting is really, really important. So if I could ask Karen to get that letter and push for a meeting with the statutory agencies by September. So coming out of the report, there was 3 requests by the woman, and that is better access to mental health professionals, more awareness and education, and workplace policies. And that's basically what the motion was that we all agreed way back. So if I could just put on that request, Karen, please, do write to the PHA and the trust and just tell them the need for our meeting and this report when the link's there, if that they could be sent that as well. Is that okay? Thank you. Catherine, you wanted to come on that?
Thank you, Chair. I suppose just I'll keep it brief because I know we're trying to get through the meeting faster, but I worked in crisis mental health right up until 8 or 9 months ago, and definitely, and since I became more aware of menopause and its impact on your mental, and it's all the other symptoms that people don't think about outside of the sweats and well, I'm not saying anything about my mommy, but the crabbedness and all that might come with it. You know. Hopefully she doesn't look at this on YouTube. But I definitely noticed that there was a lot of women coming through crisis services of a certain age who had never ever experienced mental health difficulties in their entire life. And all of a sudden now their children were up. So the stress of raising children and all those other stresses that can impact on your mental health situationally, they were all done. And then all of a sudden the women were coming in and they couldn't understand why they were all of a sudden feeling suicidal. And that's the severity. It wasn't people coming in feeling down, feeling stressed, feeling anxious. You're not admitted in a mental health unit unless your mental health is severely putting you in danger. And these women were coming in and they were suicidal. And actually, when you step back and looked at the broader picture and looked at they have never experienced this before, there is a change in hormones. It was down to menopause. And actually, when you had the menopause managed and you had the hormones managed and you had all the other support put around them, then there was no need for them to be in a mental health hospital. So I look forward to reading that. But you should have got me a second paper copy. I prefer paper, but sure. Because I think it's something that's really interesting, and I'm looking forward to the meeting happening as well. Thank you very much for raising it.
Nairi, online there.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for bringing this up. As somebody who's actually in the process of suffering serious menopausal issues, I just resonate with everything that you're saying. At the beginning of this year, I had to take a step back from work for a short period of time because of just the mental health issues in and around it and the cognitive issues that I was having at the time, and I'm still having. I'm still trying to work through those. But we have a society where the menopause and how it affects women is not often recognized, especially in the workplaces. So I totally understand. We definitely need that meeting. We need to know what help and services is out there and what they can do. Myself personally, I can't take any HRT or anything like that because I have a history of blood clots. So I just rely on homeopathic stuff or whatever to try and get me through. But there's bound to be better pathways that women can access in order to help them get through this process, because I can assure anybody in that room that it is not an easy process to transition through, and it just hit me like a lightning bolt. And so anything that we can do in that regard, I would be very much welcome to it. But thanks very much for letting me in, Aisling.
You're welcome, Nairi. Caroline?
Thanks, Chair. I've had a look at the report as well, and to be honest, working in that area, the statistics aren't surprising. It should not depend on your postcode or your economic background, or whether you have a high income or a low income, whether you can access appropriate services for menopause. So I welcome the meeting as well. The other thing just that struck me in relation to the report was, I suppose, the further difficulties that rural women face. in terms of accessing those services. Transport issues, being isolated, and I think maybe even a more stigma attached when you're coming from a rural area. So just to consider that as well when we're looking at that whole area, that the impact it has in terms of rurality. Thank you.
Thanks, Caroline. And that was one of the things that was mentioned at the meeting in relation to women who are living rurally and women from ethnic minority backgrounds as well. So there will be a focus on that when the mapping exercise is done, and hopefully the clear recommendations will come from that as well. So thank you. So next on the chair's business is Amanda, Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Aisling, for letting me in. I'm just here to commend and thank the SHARP project, which is the Skeg Health Action Research Project. It's a fantastic piece of research, and it was carried out across the Skeg area by various community, voluntary and statutory agencies and residents as well. They're all named here from the University of Ulster, GSAP, Apex, different agencies within the area. So I attended the launch of it with several other party colleagues, and it was a very informative and impactful event, which gave a real insight into the issues in Skeg. Not only Skeg's not unique in the issues, but there has a high prevalence of the issues, and you can see it very much so. It's very well set out in this. So I would urge anybody in the chamber here today to get themselves a copy of this. It's very informative. I've read the document from back to front. I watched the research taking place. It took place over months. There's months and months of qualitative and quantitative research methods carried out to bring this to the fore. So I want to thank all the agencies involved. It's going to be like my Bible now going forward with my constituency work, because it's full of so much information. So I would advise all of you to get a read at this, and I would love to just thank all the agencies that produced it. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And I did get a wee read at it. It's an excellent document, and fair play to them all for coming together. That's what partnership working looks like there, that leaflet you have in front of you. Thank you, Amanda. Next up is Sandra online.
Thank you, Chair. And I will be brief because I'm not in that chamber and I'm sensing it's very, very warm in there. My issue is I have sent a short proposal to committee services, so hopefully they have it. Obviously people will know that we have an LGBT working group at the minute, so this is a proposal that has come directly from there. There was a request that came to the mayor from Youth Action NI, I believe it was, in relation to the Strabane element of Foyle Pride and a request around that. Now, that was discussed at the mayor's group. It did then come to the LGBT working group with a recommendation of lighting up buildings or different things within the Strabane area. There was a feeling at that meeting that the lighting up of buildings or tunnies or whatever would not have the same impact as other things. There was a feeling sometimes that within the Strabane area, that within the wider Foyle Pride and they're part of the council area, that they haven't actually been part or included in a lot of the festivities or the programming of Foyle Pride. So there was an undertaking from the chair of Foyle Pride that they would look at some of the programming around Strabane and get more events in and around the town. But there was a very specific ask, and I have that in front of us. And since the meeting that we had, I have been liaising with council officers just around what is possible and what might not be possible. So that's why the proposal that is there in front of us is there. I know I have been talking to people around ideas around it, but I'm hoping that council officers are going to engage with the mayor's office, engage with Foyle Pride, and engage with Youth Action NI, where the request originally came from, and a satisfactory display will come from that. So I just think, Strabane is a really vibrant community. Foil Pride is a wonderful event. I love the week of Foil Pride. I love all the events that come with it. And I think that Strabane is part of our council area, and that inclusion event needs to be part of it. So that's why I have that proposal there. It is coming directly from the working group. So I am hoping that we can get support for it here today. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Sandra. And that will also, Karen has just been chatting to me there. So the cultural team, Aideen's team will be pulled in on that as well. So H&C and the business and cultural team will all work together on that. So thank you very much for that proposal. Councillor Boggs.
Yeah, and happy to second the proposal, Chair, on behalf of Sinn Féin, and thanks, Sandra, for bringing it out of the working group. And I know that much of what Sandra has talked about around members of the LGBTQA plus community not feeling that, I suppose, the Pride in other council areas covers the whole council area, whereas Foil Pride has historically covered the Derry end of the constituency, and naturally so it's Foil Pride, but they are working very closely in partnership with LGBT activists here in Strabane town and indeed in the rural hinterland around it. So I think anything that can be done to try and build that relationship with Foil Pride spreading across the city and district is welcome, and it may then lead, hopefully, as a building block to start to look at maybe more events during Foil Pride week, or even that Strabane gets its own Pride in years to come. I know there's an appetite for it out there, but it is a lot of work and a lot of planning and forward planning in relation to future years. But I think this would be a very welcome step. So look forward to seeing what comes out of the conversations that officers have with all those groups that Sandra has mentioned. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Councillor McDade.
Thank you. I would have been happy to second it as well. Just to, I suppose, agree with what Councillor Duffy has said from the working group. It was very clear that people in Strabane do feel that they're kind of left behind on this, and that there are people who have been asking to do something, and there was a lot of talk around lighting up the tunnels and whether that was meaningful or not, and whether it was really worth doing. And there were a lot of conversations around what could be done instead, whether it's dressing them up or something else. So I'm glad to hear that the kind of work's been already kind of started on it. And I know that there was a big conversation around that kind of Foil Pride being just in Foil. And Jason, who's on the working group as well from Foil Pride, has committed to kind of reaching out and working across the council area, probably from next year, because it's too close now to get things included in the brochure, but even just signposting people to things that are happening in Strabane as well. But thank you for bringing the motion, Sandra, and we're happy to support it. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And we have one final piece of chair's business, and I'm going back to Councillor Boggs.
Very, very briefly, because I'm not holding it up. Just in relation to the £1 scheme, summer scheme that has been launched this year again, particularly for young people, to give them a cost-effective way of doing something over the summer, and particularly welcome that it's to do with leisure and health. And I know from conversations that I've had with parents and child managers, that people are really taking it on and running with it. One thing that I had been contacted about was the possibility of some of our larger outdoor, particularly with the good weather coming this week, and maybe hopefully we'll see it before children return to school again in September, but particularly some of our large outdoor spaces like Melvin Running Track, like the Melvin 3G pitches that are lying mostly empty, not being used during the day. We have had conversations in this chamber before about, even when children are at school, is there an opportunity for us to have schools using those facilities if they don't have adequate facilities themselves? But I think particularly over the summer, parents are looking at them and saying, why is that lying there wasted? If there is a scheme where they can go to the swimming pool or play volleyball or whatever indoor in our leisure facilities right across the district, is there an opportunity to look at a pilot scheme of widening that to outdoor areas as and when weather permits? So I have had a brief conversation with officers on it. Not expecting that they have all the detail on it today for us, but if it is something that we could look at, maybe as a pilot in the month of August, and then we could maybe build on it in future years, I think it would be welcome from people who are looking to use that, and particularly use outdoor spaces over the summer. Thanks, Chair.
Is that okay, Karen?
Yes, we have passed that to our sports development team. We're going to scope out some work just at the end of the summer scheme, and I think they're hopeful that they'll be able to deliver a programme of activity.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. So, folks, that's all of chair's business. I haven't forgotten anybody or anything. No. So we'll move on to matters arising from the open minutes of the Health and Community Committee on Thursday, the 12th of June. Proposed by Councillor Boggs, seconded by Alderman Hussey. Oh, no matter, you have a matter arising. Oh, you have a matter arising. Sorry, I thought you were proposing and seconding. So we'll start with you, Paul, if you want to go ahead.
Just for the purposes of keeping it on the minutes going forward, HC 14325 in relation to the creamery in Artie some members will be aware there was another meeting held virtually and in person at the creamery at the start of the week. I don't want to say too much because it's well rehearsed within the meeting, but I do want to keep it on the minutes for going forward because I think it's an important issue that matters to the people of Artie and should matter to people in this chamber as well. So it's purely just to keep it on the minutes. I'm not asking for an update or anything. And from officers, we were all at the meeting, anybody that was interested.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. Not a member of committee, as you know, but there were a couple of items. The first one was on the good relations funding, and committee agreed that they would endorse the recommendation, seeking an explanation as to the cutting of funding. And I think when you consider the first item of business that was discussed in the chamber, and look at what I have said in a paragraph on page 31, that they've cut good relations funding. And the question that I was asking is, what are the executive doing to mitigate the impact that will have? And at the end of it, I talked in terms of, to facilitate understanding within and between communities. And that, Councillor Boggs opened up with exactly that sort of scenario that is developing. And I think we have to re-emphasize that with regard to good relations funding going forward. It's not just about, loyalists and unionists or whatever. It's about all of those who live in our community and establishing that understanding across all who are in the community. That's the first point, Chair.
Thank you. Alderman Hussey, do you want to move on to the next?
The next one is on page 36, HC 150, the Derg Active Programme, and the phase 2 works, which we're waiting on in Castleberg Town Centre. And I mentioned this yesterday at ENR. While we're waiting on phase 2, there has been no street cleaning, if you want to put it that way. There's been ordinary street cleaning, but the weeds, etc., have been allowed to grow in our town centre to the point that I'm sure every elected representative from the Derg is receiving complaints about the way our street is being left. While we're waiting in phase 2, I understand there's no point, in doing work that you're going to come in maybe tomorrow and put in the new pavements, etc. But the work on phase 2 is over months through to Christmas and beyond. So something needs to be done in the town centre to alleviate the issue that has developed there at the moment. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, we'll reinforce that point with the ENR team.
Any other matters arising? Alderman Hussey, Councillor Boggs.
Just very briefly, and I don't want this to get into a tit for tat, but Alderman Hussey did mention unionism and loyalism. There is absolutely no need for a budget for unionist and loyalist leaders to stand up and call for the removal of effigies which incite hatred and division right across communities. We have seen some of the pictures of things that are appearing on cultural bonfires in preparation for the weekend. There's no budget required for people to stand up and show a bit of leadership and call for those to be removed now.
Thank you. Councillor Tierney.
Yep, thank you. And forgive me if you will, Councillor Boggs, but I think there's a slight correction needed there. With the pictures that we're seeing and the effigies that are being displayed in bonfires should not in any view be classed as a cultural bonfire. And people that are doing that should not be allowed to get away with it. It cannot be cultural to be 100%, not 100%, but it should not be cultural to attack someone else for the colour of their skin or the way or where they're from. That's just completely and utterly wrong. I agree with everything you said, but I think in terms of describing it as cultural, that has to be called out and it should not be allowed to continue.
Thank you, councillor Tierney. Is there any other matters arising? So we are going to be going into the body of the agenda now, and I'm going to call a short 2-minute recess because I will be passing over the chair to Alderman Wilkinson because I have to be somewhere for 6 o'clock. So if you bear with us for 2 minutes, I'm just going to pass the duties over to Gary, if that's okay. Thank you.
Now reconvening members, I'd like to take agenda 8, the memorandum of the understanding between the departments of agriculture, environmental and rural affairs for the Derry District Council and report for foiled sanitary and physiosanitary, inspecting facility, and it's Seamus. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and with your approval, I'll take items 8 and 9 together because they're linked. So members, the report relates to the new inspection facility at Foyle Port, and it outlines the EU-UK agreements and arrangements which apply to Northern Ireland under the OneSER framework. It also refers to EU single markets, rules relating to the import of food through the Northern Ireland ports. And
Opposed?
Seconded.
Next is item 9, license for occupancy for foils. 10, drinking in the public bylaw and powers by Seamus.
Thanks, Chair and members. This report is to advise you on recent correspondence with the Department for Communities requesting council views relating to drinking in public and to seek members' approval of proposed comments contained within the report in response to DFC. By way of background, in 2018, the Department of Justice and Department for Communities consulted on proposals to amend the legislation to help tackle antisocial behaviour, including on-street drinking. The current legislation controls for drinking in public are implemented by council bylaws, which are enforced by the police. Members, a copy of the bylaws and designated streets are attached to the report. Following the consultation, the department has proposed amendments to the legislation, which includes providing PSNI with powers to seize and dispose of alcoholic drinks in designated areas, and to extend powers to councils should they wish to issue fixed penalty notices for offences relating to drinking alcohol in designated areas. Council officers have collated comments to facilitate a council response to the DFC by the 29th of August, which in summary welcomes the department's proposal for legislative reform. However, it is felt that police is best placed to enforce the legislation rather than council officers. The members of the recommendations council approves the proposed comments contained within the report to form a response to DFC. Thank you, Chair.
Go ahead, Paul, boss.
Can I just ask, while it says there that it would be, you didn't say preference, but that it would be a better place for police officers to be doing it instead of council officers. When we look at the likes of our community safety wardens, is there, I'm not saying that we should put that burden on them, but if it was necessary, is this the place now where it could be done that way? Obviously, that would have to be done in conjunction with speaking to them, but is this an opportunity where you can look at that kind of thing and just ask? It's just a query more than a suggestion.
Through your chair, yes, Councillor Boggs. We did liaise with PCSP, and the officers didn't feel that it was appropriate for those officers to be taking enforcement action, and that if the police needed to be present to witness the offence, that they were probably best placed to deal with the legislation in its entirety.
Thank you for the clarity. Happy to propose.
Second. Right.
It's obviously drinking in public is the issue. And as I understand it, up until now, it was only an open container that could be confiscated. Does this legislation now say that if you have a blue bag and unopened cans or bottles, they can be lifted? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Councillor Tierney.
Yep, Chair, thank you. And I'm happy to second the recommendation in the paper. But I would like our response to point out that fining, removing alcohol, or arresting these people isn't going to cure all of the problems. There's a lot of social issues out there which cause people to unfortunately end up on the street drinking alcohol and doing other things. And I think our response needs to reflect that, and needs to reflect that whilst, yes, there needs to be some type of policing of that activity, but there also needs to be, and we would like to see, further support for individuals who find themselves in that unfortunate position where they're on the street drinking, because I think that's a wider issue than trying to throw fines out here, there and everywhere in the hope, and I think it's false hope, that it will stop people from consuming alcohol on the streets. I think it's a wider issue, and I think it's something that should be included within our consultation response. I have no issue in terms of the suggested direction of officers that police are best placed to deal with it. I have no issue with that, but I think we would be on a fool's pardon if we weren't including the reasons and the support mechanisms that some people need to get them off the streets drinking. They don't need a fine. They need wider support with their addiction, with their homelessness, and with other social issues that currently many of those people will tell you are lacking within our society at the moment. So I think I feel really strongly about this, and I would like that included in the consultation response, please.
Thank you, Councillor Tierney. On the Councillor Boggs.
Just having proposed it more than content to endorse everything that Councillor Tierney has said, it's an important issue that this isn't the silver bullet to solve the issues that people unfortunately face. So more than happy to support that as well.
Thank you. Moving on now to Agenda 11, update on home safety services, and it's page 149 to 156, and it's Seamus again.
Thanks, Chair. Members, I take the report has been read. So the recommendation is to approve the letter of offer from the Public Health Agency to continue supporting the delivery of the service, and the contract value is just under 50,000. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Madid.
Happy to say.
Okay, so we're moving on to item 12.
To item,
Thanks, Brian.
so item 12 is the Melvin grass pitch maintenance, and it's pages 157 to 158. Angus Barry.
Thanks, Chair. Members, just to seek your approval to pilot an increased pitch maintenance schedule at Melvin Arena. Officers have engaged in recent months with users of the arena pitch who've highlighted their concerns. We've engaged with our grounds maintenance team as well, members, and there was a general consensus that any issues were not due to the type of maintenance work provided, but rather the presence of worm cast. It's proposed, members, that at the start of the new football season in August, that Melvin Arena grass pitch receives a second weekly pitch service for a trial period of 10 weeks. The weekly cost has been estimated at just under £500 a week. And this cost will come from the existing Melvin Sports Complex budget. The standard of the playing surface will be monitored during this trial period, including feedback from users, premises managers, and grounds maintenance. At the end of the 10-week trial period, a report will be collated and presented to members for further consideration. So members obviously understand the significance of this. If we have a number of other complaints from a lot of other pitch users around the standard of certain pitches. So we will also be working with specialists in the field as well. So we're seeking your approval today for an increased grass pitch maintenance schedule at Melvin for a 10-week trial period.
Sorry. Thank you, Barry. First speaker is Councillor Bowles.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks, Barry, for the report. And I'm glad that we have got to this position now, because the first meeting that I had asked for with other councillors, Councillor Barr included, there was nearly a suggestion from some that there was no issue. But then later on, the wormcast was identified as an issue, and now hopefully this will go some way in sorting that out. So it's very, very welcome, and I'm glad to see that it can be found within existing budget at Melvin. And also in relation to the experts that are being commissioned in relation to it as well. So more than happy to propose the report. Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Barry and his team for bringing this forward. We know that council officers and the maintenance teams have worked very, very hard to try and solve this problem, and I'm glad to see this coming to fruition. And given the fact that Strabane Athletic and Science Swift Ladies are going to be played at a higher level now, I think it's imperative that this work is carried out. So I second that. Thank you.
Thank you for checking that. And we have Councillor Tierney.
Chair, thank you. I'm happy to support it. I think all of our pitches should be kept up to the best possible standard that we can. I just have two questions. Number one, Barry suggested that there are a number of other pitches across the district with similar concerns. And when I ask number two, you'll understand why I'm asking number one. How many other pitches across the district are having similar concerns? And question number two is, I think you said it was £500 extra per week for 10 weeks in the trial basis. That sounds pretty expensive for an extra one pitch maintenance per week. Why is it so expensive? And is that going to be the same rolled out if we were to roll this pilot out to the other pitches that you're going to suggest need similar attention? Through yourself, Chair. No, when I mention other pitches, Councillor Tierney, they have pitch maintenance issues. There's one similar, Lisney Galvin, with wormcast, but there's lots of other users and clubs that would complain on a regular enough basis to council about the state of the pitch. We have had our grounds maintenance our team down, and there has been a bit of dispute about the state of the pitch. You know, some of our team don't believe that is an issue, but when you maintain it the day before a game or the day of a game to deal with the worm cast issue, the pitch is perfection, and within 2 days again or 3 days, it can play a bit uneven just due to the nature. Believe it, the worms are good for the pitch. They really are, but for that particular period after that. So in terms of the cost, we've engaged again in quite a lot of detail with the grounds maintenance team. They're stretched to a maximum of staff, so we're down to one pitch maintenance session per pitch per week. If they were to put another crew on, there's a huge financial contribution required from council. I'll not go into it, but you can imagine this is going to be done as overtime because it's the only possible time in the crew schedule that they can come and do a second pitch. They're stretched to the limit at the minute, and that's where the additional cost comes in terms of the just under £500. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor or Alderman Hussey, please.
Thank you, Chair. And I fully understand the worm cast scenario and the rolling of the pitch from the maintenance of our own club's private pitch. Rolling compacts the ground. So as well as rolling, is it anticipated that there would be aeration? You mentioned there how good the worms are for the pitches with regard to drainage, etc. But when you compact, it obviously gives drainage issues as well. So it would be intended that it's not just rolling, but there will be regular aeration of the pitches as well.
For yourself, Chair, yeah, all that'll be done.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Are we happy enough to move on, members? Yeah. Moving on to the financial commitment of the Department of Communities for, sport. Item 13, Sports Committee Club Maintenance Programme, and it's pages 159 to 162, and it's Barry again.
Take this report as read, members, but you'll all be aware we put an additional 30k in the budget this year through rates, and there was an over subscription, as we always do get with our grant aid programs, but we're going to use sports development underspends to fund all of the organisations that have applied. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor McDade.
Yeah, thanks for the work on it and the many meetings around it too, so happy to propose it. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on to item 14, the financial commitment of the Department of Communities for public health agencies 2025 to 26, and it's pages 163 to 218, and it's Barry again, please.
Thank you, Chair. And again, I'll take the report as read, but just to provide members an update on the financial commitments from our main funders, to seek your approval to award the SLAs to Foyle Search and Rescue, Newton Stewart Leisure Complex Limited, and Derry Healthy Communities for 25-26. And members, just for your info, I know Newton Stewart Leisure Complex were in last month. We had a very productive meeting with them. We were able to get some of our money out this after the meeting that was due to them, and we will have a more detailed report on that premises coming back to you in September. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Brett. And Councillor Devine.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to propose that. I just have a question, and thanks for clarifying that as well, Barry. Thank you. Rapid is mentioned there in 2.3. So can I ask how that about that contract? That's a tender. It's not an SLA, and I don't think it's mentioned further in the report. So can you clarify that?
Yeah, Rapid, there's a procurement exercise carried out, and the preferred bidder gets it, and they're awarded over that 3-year period. The SLAs are always done annually, so that's why they're always mentioned, because they need committee approval every year because they're mentioned in the rates booklet.
Sorry, just coming back on that, but Rapid's mentioned as well at the bottom of that report. Are there any plans to maybe change that from a tender process to an SLA? Because I'm told they're the only ones that tender for that piece of work.
well, that would be an elected member's decision if that's something that members want taken forward, yeah. Yeah, but you would need to be sure that there's not other potential service providers. They have had 2 contracts now where there's been no other applicants in that particular area of work.
And Councillor or Alderman Hussey.
Thanks, Chair. It's just on the back of the Newtonshire 2000. We know there was a meeting with officers that councillors were invited to a pre-meet, but we weren't able to go for various reasons. Will there be an update of that meeting that was held with Newtonshire 2000 for members?
Through yourself, Chair, yeah, that'll all be included within the paper. It was just, the meeting was, it was not a regurgitation of the presentation, but we were just trying to understand processes, our own processes about getting 50% of the money out up front as well. And in terms of what we've asked them, that'll all be presented in the report, so it will, including how elected members are engaged to sit on a board if we're given a substantial amount of money out, or like we do with our council-owned community managed centres. It's imperative that members, that'll be one of the key elements within their agreement going forward.
Sorry, online there for Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. Just, I suppose, I'll touch on the 2 points there that have been raised by Councillor Devine and Alderman Hussey. Well, in relation to, I suppose, Barry's response to Alderman Hussey. Yes, I think all of the DARE councillors did raise an issue in that there wasn't as much engagement with the invitations in regard to the Newton Stewart group, but they're not the only group. As I say, there are council maintained community centres, as Barry has alluded to there. And again, I don't feel that the invitations to elected members or consultation with elected members it's not taking place. There's no point saying it any other way. It's not. So as I say, it's something that has to be looked at if council are putting funding into these. But again, and I will declare a declaration of interest, as I'm sure Councillor Devine has, in regards to that we sit on the rapid, as some of the representatives from the council. But it is an ongoing issue that they're a very vital organisation in regards to the funding, and I'm thinking in particular in my own DEA and our DEA in the DERG, but as you know, the work that they're doing with the small groups, and we have a vast number of small groups, and that continual process where they're taking their resources to continually apply in regards to that funding opportunity, as Carolyn has alluded to, and the ASLA, I do think it is something that will have to be looked at. And again, I'm not a member of the committee, Chair, but I do think if officers could bring something back, I do think it would be a benefit, because as you have stated, Barry, the last 2 occasions they've been the only applicant in for it, and again, there's a lot of time and resources spent in meeting the criteria and putting in the application form. So as I say, it's just something I do feel should be looked at in detail, not just mentioned at the meeting and left and forgot about. So thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in.
Thank you. Moving on to open for information, and we go to number 15. Any speakers? And 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Enough? So can I get a proposer and seconder for confidential? Thank you. So item 22 is the UNICEF UK CFC for Ennis Barry.